what are you doing here?
What am I doing here? I met this man that owns this property back in January, and what I'm doing is using the barter system. I'm doing some work, which we will later show you, the pictures of the movies, of the windows that I put in. I'm also doing some work for him in his home in exchange for staying in a little travel trailer over my shoulder with all the comforts of home for just a little bit of work.
So, how have you ended up riding a bike, like, in your life? Tell me about how you got into
Well, I
it.
started out when I was about 16, riding with a friend of mine on his little Honda 50 Super Sport. But when my uncle took me for a ride on his big Harley, that's what did it. The bug got into my system, and I'm now riding, and I've been riding for about 46 years, and I will forever ride. In fact, I will die with these handlebars in my hands.
What is it that appeals to you about, like, the road life?
The openness, the wind in my face, and the freedom. Riding the highways the way I choose, and where I want to go, and do what I want to do.
So what are your plans for? How long have you been, like, purely on the road?
Okay, I started out the end of April in Florida, where I had lived for 8 years, the last 8 years. I traveled 3,500 miles before I ended back home in Minnesota for the summer of last year. I stayed 5 months. October 16th of last year, I left on the road, and I've been riding ever since. And I now have possibly close to 6,000 miles since I left Minnesota in October.
So, like, using your kind of thing is the bike.
The bike.
In general travel in terms, what positives do you think that brings to a person?
The positiveness?
Well, what are the benefits of life on the road, kind of thing?
I get to see things that I've never seen before in my life, and I get to see things that people will never see in their lifetime, even if they did travel like me. Because when you meet a person that owns this kind of piece of property, that knows the area, and can get into places like Indian caves with ancient art on the wall that's 2,000 years old, to me that is the most beneficial thing in my life. I was in Vicksburg some months ago, and I visited the Vicksburg National Military Park and saw some of the most greatest history in this country about the Civil War, and I learned a lot. And just being that, I would never regret making the decision I've made to do this.
This is kind of going, it's something I want to ask everybody.
Okay.
If you haven't, like, you've kind of found your thing, one of the reasons I'm here is to try and find my thing.
All right.
So what would you advise people, like, if they haven't found it yet, how did you go about finding it? Does it just come naturally, or?
Well, to tell you the truth, the idea came to me back in the late 70s and early 80s from a television show about a gentleman that rode on a motorcycle across the country. Every week was a new episode, and every episode was a new adventure for him. And to me, that always seemed to linger in the back of my mind. So the idea came to me to do this about, I'd say about 5 years ago. So I continued working toward the age of 62 when I could start drawing Social Security. So having an income that I could provide on without having to work, but travel at the same time, that's what I wanted to do, and I made the decision back in February of 2012 to do it, and again, like I say, I've never regretted it.
That's awesome.